No, he's in Florida right now.
Oh, why?
He's performing.
He's doing a weekend down there.
And we are live.
Fuck that.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Comedy Cellar Nightly. We're here with Monroe Martin, Joe Zimmerman, and the great Rich Voss. Where's Esty? Bush, where's Esty?
Liz is trying to get contacting her as well. She's been here every night this week. I don't know why she's not here now.
Okay. So anyway, what's up, fellas? Like, if there wasn't enough history, right? Like, there's been more history packed into the last few months than my entire lifetime, I think. Like maybe 9/11, 9/11 and this, right?
Well, I had to learn about the 1807 Insurrection Act. I didn't even know about that one.
Go ahead, sorry.
This Saturday, they're having a march, a protest in my town, like a quarter mile from my house. And I'm having
your act. Sorry.
Thank you. That's one for. We'll give you one. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. Fucking boat act. And so the protest, and I got anxiety over it.
For what?
In case it gets out of hand. I don't know. And it's not even the protesters. It's these people that come in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like, I'm about a quarter mile from where it's happening.
Yeah.
And where it's happening, there's like really no stores to loot. There's a supermarket and there's nothing in my town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't get, I don't know why I guess I'm just seeing the negative shit on the news or online, and then you get worried.
I think so, because there's just as many, there are probably more peaceful protests where people are just walking down the street, marching, songs, signs, but they don't show that. They'll rather show the looting and stuff like that. And the looting is like very isolated incidents. You know what I mean?
No, it's not isolated. It's not isolated. You're right that it's a small percentage of the protest, but it is a lot of looting. I mean, you have I was reading like almost every single store in certain parts of Manhattan looted. You're talking about major cities where places like Walmart are considering not even coming back to those cities. You have multiple people stabbed. You have, this is maybe the worst looting from what I read today we've ever seen. It's serious. And go ahead, Richard. Sorry.
Well, but I'm out in the suburbs, so I don't know. My wife.
Are you more afraid of how the people will react to the protest, or are you afraid of the protest? Like, not afraid, but what are you more concerned with? The reaction? Because there are people who, like, I've seen videos, and there are people who don't want the protesters there because they don't like what it represents, and they're going down there to kind of stop it. There are like people with their guns and stuff out.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know what I mean?
I'm not against it. I'm for the protest. I'm against people coming. What's that?
I'm for the cause, but
what's wrong with marching and bringing awareness?
Hold on, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we've been told it's too risky to let people go out right now into crowds because you're going to kill thousands of people. And I see those people on TV shoulder to shoulder with no masks, and that's not worth killing. I mean, we're a week into this. No, it should stop. It should stop now, unless somebody wants to tell me that it's more important than the lives it will take. By the way, Black lives, white lives, old people's lives. At this point, it's enough. They need to prioritize innocent life again, no matter how just their cause is. It's enough.
I mean, but I get what you're saying, but that would make sense if there wasn't like murders by cops during the whole quarantine. Like, if we're supposed to be inside, it kind of does matter, because it's like, if you're murdering people while we're supposed to be inside, then
you're not gonna you're not gonna repeat that if it's your mother who gets sick and dies because of this.
But I will.
Well,
I will, because I mean, it can be any cause or something. There's nothing's going to be. It's not like there's something to be accomplished. All four of the cops are arrested. Charges are brought. So then that means it worked. Then
no, it means that there's nothing imminent here, and we have we have shut down the entire United States of America because we thought this was too dangerous.
Yeah.
And 100,000 people have died.
Yes.
And we don't want another 100,000 people to die with another wave.
Yeah.
And it is or if they want to continue it, then it needs to be done by the social distancing rules, which can be done, meaning a time and place, and everybody has to wear a mask, and everybody has to stand a certain number of things together, and you demonstrate in a powerful symbolism. Maybe walk from New York to Washington D.C. with masks on, with a distance. That I'm all for
walk to New York, from New York to Washington D.C.
I know you're a kid, but that was the March on Washington during the Civil Rights Movement.
I know, but that was also during a time where people didn't have Ubers and access.
I'm just making a point. I'm saying if you want to go with the symbolism of this, don't tell me that there's no way to do this anything less than a totally reckless, throw caution to the wind way. There's not either or. You want to do it? Then do it in a way that shows that you at least, this is very important to me. We want to do this, but you know what? We also are going to do everything we can to make sure that by doing this, we don't kill innocent people by spreading this virus some more.
But are you out?
I don't believe anybody would argue with me about that.
No, I'm not arguing.
I mean, of course, but there are people. Oh, sorry.
Wait, hold on.
People,
no.
Go ahead.
Noam, are you outraged about all the people going to the beaches around the country, sitting there next to each other?
Are you outraged about Central Park? Are you like there's so many people out?
I'm outraged by anybody who is taking this lightly in such a way that it can come back to kill the people I love and the people I know. And it's all about the data. If they can show that. Listen, I don't think that people should be crowding.
We were going to get a
second
curve anyway.
Beaches in New York right now. I don't think they're allowed to. But unless the data shows that because of the sunlight and the beach and whatever it is, that's not actually a risk. But I believe at the beach they're supposed to be social distancing. I believe at the beach. What's that?
Don't believe it. They're supposed to be everywhere they go.
That's right.
Crowds of people. Once these
there's no exception for, you know what, I really feel strongly about this and this is really important. So therefore, I don't have to social distance. Because, by that logic, why can't the Orthodox Jews go pray like they want to? Orthodox Jews, they sooner took death in history rather than give up their prayer. It's very, very, very important to them.
I mean, I drove through Brooklyn not too long ago and they were out like it was like they were out in the streets. Like, so they definitely weren't social distancing. They were holding hands.
What's that?
When I was out in Brooklyn not too long ago.
I know what I'm saying.
They were out and about.
I think you're taking every point of mine and putting it into the opposite. I'm saying, I know they should not be, Orthodox Jews should not be getting away with that. But I'm saying is that they have not been allowed to go and do what they want to do, and rightfully so. What I'm saying is that just no matter how important it is to them, no matter how much they think they would give their lives, literally risk their lives to do this. It's intensely important to them, just like these causes are intensely important to us. Point is that we say yes, but you know what? There's a pandemic right now.
Yeah.
And if you want it, there's going to be rules. And you see the most outrageous. We've seen the most outrageous video probably any of us have ever seen. I can't shake it. I think about it all the time. I understand the outrage, but I also know that part of like true wisdom and being a true, wise human is to not validate everything you want to do by your own outrage when there's other people going to pay a price for it. And if you know that innocent people may die because of this, then even with that huge outrage, you have to say to yourself, you know what? This is not just about me.
You got to take it in. You also got to take this into consideration. What about the people who understand their lives may be at risk and their family lives may be at risk, and they still choose to use this opportunity to protest?
No, you're not allowed to risk your family's life. Number one, that's no parent. You go to jail for risking your kid's life. And normally, if a parent does something which could recklessly lead to the death of his children, the child is taken away from that parent. There's no exception if the parent did it because it was for a cause that he believed in.
Well, anywhere that there's a march in this country or any city, state, wherever, the march has to start somewhere. How come the government is not handing out masks? They don't cost anything.
Rich,
They
I
can
got to
hand
tell
it
you,
out.
I am, it's funny because I've been on the other side of a lot of these arguments. I want to tell you something. Like,
What?
I am not pro-police disposed at all, and I've never been. I have seen my whole life, long before it was an issue. This was a topic of conversation in my home about the police and what we used to see, and with the brutality that used to go on in the police car. People go in the police car and come out just totally beaten to a pulp, and talk about how they resisted in the car, whatever. I mean, I am not in any fucking way naive to this. I dispute some of the statistics about this other things, but in terms of the cause of police brutality, and not just the cause of police brutality, the cause of people who are convicted innocently, like the Innocence Project. These are very important causes, the most important causes. And with all my conservative politics, I've been against the Bloomberg stop and frisk for like forever. I mean, even in my first podcast, it was out of character for me because I'm very aware of police.
Mm-hmm.
But having said all that, if you're going to end up killing my wife or my children because of this protest, I'm saying no. I'm sorry, that's not okay. I can't go that far. And if it's gonna be like, and it's for as long as we want, like, all right, the first day, the second day, now they're arrested. No, we want to do this for the next 3 weeks. As a matter of fact, we don't care if we upend all the progress made by this lockdown. It doesn't.
What would be the progress made?
You're not allowed to mention that. You don't care about us if you want to actually consider what the ramifications might be. And having said all that, there may be data out there which says that these protests are not spreading the virus, in which case I'm saying, fine, go protest. And you know what? Let everyone else out also. Let everyone else out also. In other words, if it's really safe to gather in thousands of people now, then what the fuck am I stuck home for?
Yeah. I mean, phase 1 is on the 8th, correct?
Not in the city. Oh, in the city, maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Phase? What are you talking about?
Phase 1 meaning certain businesses will be able to reopen on the 8th, June 8th.
But if they're opening business, I don't get, like, what's the breakthrough that you can open a business or not open a business, or this one has to, you can have a restaurant where people can eat, but you can't perform. Like, I don't get any of it.
No, you cannot eat indoors.
Yeah,
no, in Jersey. I'm talking about in Jersey. My friend has a comedy club, and outside he has a cafe.
Yeah.
And the governor says, well, you can have people eat there outside on your big patio, but you can't have anybody perform.
Because a performance will draw a bigger crowd, higher risk.
No. There's only a certain amount of seats on this terrace, on this cafe or whatever. So,
I don't know.
I mean, I don't get,
Can I say something else? Think about the people who died in the civil rights movement. Like, the white kids from CORE, and I'm ashamed that I don't know the names of the various black people who died in various marches, but I'm sure I know that there's important stories there. Just a few lives of people who died for those causes are profound. And it's not crazy to think that what's going on now within the community that's affected him, within the black community, what if a few thousand of them die because they went to these protests? Will that actually be considered to have been worthwhile when the
it all depends, but I mean, that's outside looking in.
2 or 3 people having died, to fight segregation was considered a tremendous, horrible price to pay. Why? And this
doesn't that falls on the people who decided to do it? Like, to them, it's worth it.
Because they bring it to, well, first of all,
for example, if I go out there, I protest, and I know there's a risk that I can get corona and I can possibly bring it to my wife and get sick and stuff like that. But if I die and I choose to go, it was worth it. Then how does that affect you?
So
you know what I'm saying?
Two ways. First of all, people in charge, I think what I'm saying is true. I'm sure there's science to this. When you are extremely emotional, you don't do a good job of weighing the pros and cons.
You don't think irrationally.
Yeah. So cooler heads need to prevail and tell people, So wait a second here. We need to also think of ourselves here. So like I said, so if we're going to do this, let's try to do this in a way that we can not die here. We don't want to give our lives for a protest. We'll give our lives.
But wasn't that, like, when you think about that, isn't that the point of it? Isn't that the thing that drives it going? We know there's a disease out there that can kill us, but this is how important this is to us, that we want some sort of justice. We want ramifications.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think there is some of that. And the second thing I would say is that, as opposed to other things where you're risking your own life, we all know that you're not just risking your own life. You're risking people who have no say in it. If it was just a matter of the people, if this was not a communicable, well, I don't know how that could work, but if somehow you could only pick it up at the protest and only the person who went to the protest could die from it, he's the one who made the decision and he couldn't bring it back, then I would be a different moral calculus. But even then, I would hope that the people who care about those people would say, no, at some point, we don't want this to, it shouldn't be a bottomless pit of lives lost.
Yeah.
There is a law of diminishing returns here. Whatever we've accomplished through these protests, and these protests certainly are not going to be forgotten so easily. The next week of the protests is not going to fundamentally move the needle more than it's been moved, in my opinion. I mean, this week, as whatever it is, it's made a big impact. The second week is not going to add much more to it. So I really think that.
Well, I think people are continuing to march for, like, Breonna Taylor, the woman who was shot in her apartment in bed. You know what I mean? And there's no charges brought up. So I think people are marching because they want the president to say something. And they're not going to say anything. The president's a jackass. He was in the White House chilling, lights out, took a couple naps.
Everybody should Google. There's a transcript of an interview he did on Fox and Friends, asked about this, and it's just incoherent. He talks about the spaceship and how much his poll numbers and it's just sickening. It's just sickening to hear the way he can't focus.
He tweeted the other day, he went down to the bunker and he tweeted that Obama left it empty, dirty, and no food. Guess what? You had 3 years to go fill the refrigerator, stupid. He's saying he left the bunker dirty. In 3 years, you didn't have it clean, jackass. Who's tweeting that during the pandemic riots? He's tweeting that he left the bunker dirty.
I wanna pat myself on the back here. Esty, mute your mic.
That's ferocious. It's a ferocious animal.
And it's such a little dog too, but that bark is big.
So way back when Trump was first, about to be elected running for elected, and I was very much in the camp that he wasn't going to become Hitler and he wasn't going to overthrow the government, blah, 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 blah. But what I always said was the problem with Trump is going to be that if there comes a time when we need a president who is up to the job, we're not going to have one. And for 3 years, we didn't really need a president who was up to the job. He was horrible. Everybody's going nuts, but everything was fine, And all of a sudden the shit hit the fan and you actually need someone who can do the job. And now we realize he's way over his head. He can't handle any of it. He's not only not an evil genius, he's a fucking idiot. That's been the problem all along. He wasn't playing three-dimensional chess and gonna figure out. He wasn't an evil genius who managed to cover up every one of his tracks in a secret deal with the Russians that we could never quite. He was always one step ahead of us. We couldn't catch him. He's brilliant. No.
Yeah, this is what the Russians had been planning on this whole time, was American flames.
Yep.
American what?
America in flames.
This is what Russia had been hoping for, to have Trump in office. But yeah, I'll just say that regarding the rationality of the protests, especially the nighttime protests, when it's kind of giving cover of night to the crime and it's distracting the police that could stop the looting. But I think, when you had the Ahmaud Arbery death on the 10th, and then the bird watching incident a week ago, and then you followed up with this horrible 8-minute video of a murder, you know, you could tell that nothing was going to be rational or safe about the response to this. I mean, people were just like, fuck it, we're done behaving. You
Yeah.
know, we're gonna set things on fire until this changes. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I hope I haven't said anything which indicates that I don't think the cause of against police brutality is an extremely important cause, or B, that I question the sincerity or the righteous anger of the people who are upset about this, even the ones I don't agree with on some of the on some of the points that they are advocating, or some of the way that they see the various incidents. But that's not the point. This is total good faith. I understand all the emotion of it, but that doesn't mean that doesn't validate anything. If we know that there's a ledger here, and that's on one side of the ledger, and then the other side of the ledger is, okay, and how many people are going to die because of this? You have to have that conversation. Say, you know what? Okay, it looks like it's going to be 2,000 people. We still think it's worth it. But the truth is that no one would have the balls say, no, we still think it's worth it. So we just pretend it's not there. Nobody really wants to talk about it, because if you tell somebody, listen, if you do this protest, 150 innocent people are going to die. Do you still want to do the protest? They'd be like, most people are like, nah, I don't know. Let's think about this for a second, but if they're not forced to consider that, that's what's going on here. They're putting it out of they're in denial about what the consequences may be. And again,
but there are people out there.
Say one more thing. If there's data out there which says that this is safe, then I retract it all. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I'm saying there are people out there that are marching with masks. There are stations that were built for people to put on masks and hand sanitizers. So there are companies that are investing in this and taking the precautions to make sure that at least a couple people are safe.
Yeah, good. I don't say some people are concerned about their own safety, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
on a whole, I worry that that people are going to die because of this, and especially, it's impossible to weigh human life, but especially especially into the second week, when I really think it's tougher and tougher to even justify that this is going to be consequential. As the second week of protests is going to be that consequential, to weigh that against human life.
It probably will. I think it'll go on for a while, just because I know that 2 more young men died in the hands of police officers. So I think people are going to be doing this for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I talked to somebody, and I'm thinking, when is this going to turn into? Because I see white people and black people protesting, looting, and rioting together. But when's it going to go? When's it going to turn into like a race, black versus white, or white? At some point, there's groups out here that are antagonizing and would love to see a race. They would love to see it. Groups that would love to see a race war. So, at what point? All it's going to take is one something bad to happen, and then it's going to be really mass hysteria out there. That's my opinion.
Also, yeah. Well, I'm curious.
You're talking about the race. Go ahead.
I'm curious what your opinions are on the police side of it, because in Astoria, Queens, most of the police officers are women, Black, Asian, Indian. It's like NYPD is majority minority now. So I don't quite follow the whole fuck all the NYPD sentiment so much as we need to change the
race doesn't have anything to do with police behavior. You had like a year ago, that Asian cop who shot the dude in the Bronx in the head. You know what I mean? It's more about police behavior, and fuck the police is more of a general thing than a specific thing, and it's just something you gotta deal with until behavior changes. You know what I mean? You can't be like, fuck some police. That's just too long of a sentence.
Stop.
So you just say kind of fuck the police, and then hope that. Oh, see ya.
Why are you leaving?
Sorry.
The dog wants to chime in.
Yeah, it's too much going on.
Well, you know what I think too. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Yeah. This is, people. I could see black people completely fed up with the police and stuff, but it goes beyond that. People are fed up the 1%, the corporations, and just not the rich getting richer, and they're just sitting here getting poorer. Their businesses are closing. They're not working. People are just fucking fed up with besides police brutality, with society in a whole. The way, so I mean, it's beyond.
Yeah,
you know,
like I live.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm just saying, you get to the level of police brutality, but then you start thinking, you know, look at these corporations getting bailed out. Look at this. I'm not fucking working. You know, people are saying I'm broke. Why the fuck is this happening? It's just a complete of society. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying to Joe's point, just like I live in Queens too. I live in a different part. I live in Jackson Heights, which is predominantly Hispanic and Indian, stuff like that. And most of the cops who patrol the area, it's a mix of Hispanic and Indian and stuff. And they're still assholes. Like I'll watch cops harass like moms who are selling the little ice creams or the little choritos or whatever, and like throw their shit in the street, throw it down the sewer. So it's a behavior. It's not just a race. It's the behavior that comes along with kind of being untouchable.
So Monroe, that's actually been my position for a long time, which is that because statistically the number of like unarmed people being shot by cops is minuscule. It's like eight or 9 people, you know, and black people and like 15 white people. So it's a very, 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 very tiny number. But I've always felt for a long time.
That's reported. I'm pretty sure like every homicide, every time somebody dies is reported. But in any case, it's whatever it is. My larger point is this. I've always felt that it was the day-to-day humiliating interactions with the cops that everybody suffers, and black people suffer 10 times more. Innocent black people, wholesome black people, every one of my friends, and you know, and you can, and I can, you know, you can. It's fair to point out that sometimes this is in a high crime neighborhood or whatever it is, but that doesn't change it for the person who's law-abiding and wholesome, and yet again gets pulled over, and the cop talks to him like to make it very clear that you're beneath me and you have the anxiety and that builds up into a rage. But you can't get people out in the streets for that. It's just not. There's not an incident. You can't do it. So what I really believe that when one of these shootings happens, it becomes a release valve for all this pent up resentment, the resentment I really agree with towards the cops, such that if the cops were really not like this in general, if you said, well, no, whenever I see cops, you know, they're very professional and they're not assholes, then when somebody did get shot, people would say to themselves, oh, I don't know what the fuck, that was a bad apple cop. I mean, you know, I know cops and they're all right, you know, and we'd give them the benefit of the doubt if 20 people got shot a year, if we knew that they weren't like what you're describing. But the fact is they are what you're describing. And they do humiliate people over and over and over and over again. And I really think that's the core anger at this protest. I really think that's what it is. And that's why I agree with that part.
And no one's bringing it up, and I'm bringing it to the attention. I've always had a problem with park rangers.
So hold on. Sorry. So it said, because I just had to look. It said 2019 alone, police killed 1,900 people.
No, those are not unarmed. Those are in various. It could be gunfights or whatever it is. Those are armed. If you look at the Washington Post has a thing. You can look up the unarmed shootings. If you guys talk about it, I'll find it. Go ahead.
All right.
Well, I mean, like I said before, we have a president that can't handle this. That is not uniting people. If this was Kennedy, Clinton,
any president we've ever had,
any of them would have.
Yeah, even Bush would have handled this a lot better.
Yes,
he quoted a 1960s sheriff from the South in shooting when the looters show up. How do you
the looting starts, the shooting starts. Yeah.
How do you quote a 1960s sheriff from the South and then Capitol all caps thugs, like that's clearly a racially charged word. To say that after all that just happened seems
because
insane.
that's his glory years. That's what he means by make it great again. He's 70 something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read the funniest thing on Facebook. When he was holding the Bible, someone said every time he touches a Bible, an angel coughs up blood.
I saw.
Here's it in Washington. This is the Washington Post.
Okay.
Rate of unarmed black men killed by police still highest despite drops since 2015. So this is 2018. You see, 2015 was 36. It was down to 7 in 2018. 1 Hispanic and 10 white people unarmed killed unarmed in 2018. So and then also there's that horrible video in Dallas that came out now of a white guy being killed exactly like Floyd, with his knee on his back, screaming for air. 10 minutes and he drops dead, and they joke about it afterwards. So really, Monroe is, I think you hit the nail on the head, without discounting that there is racism and an extra glee that a racist sadist takes in having a racist a victim of the race that he hates. There is a cop mentality which exists probably in every country on earth. When you give somebody a badge and power over them, and this is deep within the flaws of human nature. But the fact is that 7 unarmed blacks were killed in 2018, 10 unarmed whites in 2008. And that can't account, those numbers cannot account for this reaction. Only thing that could count to that reaction is the day-to-day anger, in my opinion, the day-to-day fed up with the cops, not the shooting.
No, you're saying 10 whites and 7 blacks, but there's 3 or 4 times as many white people in this country than blacks. So you can't put those numbers when it comes to
well, if you want to go down that
percentages.
No, because if you want to go down that road, I don't do it. I don't do it happily, but it's necessary. Which is, there's also 12 times as much gun violence in the black community than the white community. 12 times. So,
I still don't get that. I've never understood that statistic. Just because how can a lesser group commit more crime? Like the percentage of
12 times per capita. 12 times per capita. Well, we know that the number.
But I still don't get that though. I still don't, like, you're saying 12 times per capita, and to me, I still don't get that, because I'm like, then that you're telling me that we work overtime.
Monroe,
to commit crimes.
why is the leading cause of death of a black man 25 years old homicide? That's because it's. I mean, we know this. So yes, white people are more. Listen, I don't think I'm being insulting, and I don't want to be insulting.
No, we're having a conversation. Nobody's being insulting.
But the reason I say it is because if it's not true, and if there isn't higher crime in disadvantaged communities,
I think I just always sorry to cut you off.
No,
I just always feel like stats like that are created to back people, because you have an understanding of those stats and you see it differently. But the people who want to weaponize those statistics to prove to, like, it's a part of propaganda. So when I see stuff like that, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me that a group that is like 13 to 16% of the population commits more murders than someone who's 70% of the population.
Not more murders per person. Listen, you're right, but you made a very correct point in my opinion. Stats can be weaponized.
Yeah,
they can be cherry picked, and they can be aggregated in such a way to make almost any point someone wants to make, and that's why I reluctantly answered him, because I said, well, I'm not going to bring stats because I'm not trying to do that. But
I get you.
If you want to understand why it still makes sense, I mean, let's just take, there's a neighborhood that has a lot of shooting in it and a neighborhood that has never had a shooting, all white people. And if I told you that 10 people were killed by the cops in a neighborhood that has all the shooting, and 0 people were killed in the neighborhood that didn't have shooting, you say, well, that makes sense. I mean, who's going to shoot them? The people in the neighborhood that don't have shootings? No. So I'm just saying that you can slice and dice it any way you want, but no matter how you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
these are very small numbers, 10 and 7 out of 300 million in a country of 300 million people. And I do not think they account for the anger that we're feeling here. I think what accounts for that, especially in the Black community, is the day-to-day police humiliation, which is not necessary and it is not excusable. When a cop panics because somebody goes to his pocket and he thinks it was a gun and he shoots him and he was unarmed, in my heart, I say, you know what? Jesus Christ, thank God I'm not in that position, because I understand how that can happen. What I don't understand is why I saw a cop on McDougal Street one time. I've told the story before. It was a taxi driver, 5 a.m. You know, it's like in front of the comedy cell, like 5 a.m. It's just empty, right? Empty. And cop, a guy, it was an Indian cab driver, stops into Mamoon's. The cop pulls up, and Mamoon's is the falafel place next to the comedy cellar. And the cop pulls up and says, goes in and says, "Is this your cab?" And the driver is nice. He says, "Yes, sir. I'm just getting a sandwich. I'm hungry. I'll move it in a second." He says, "Come out here." He says, "Move your cab." And the driver says, "Please, I just grabbing a sandwich. I ordered it." Before he can get it out, the cop takes him by the arm, twists him backwards, smashes his head down on the hood of the taxi, and the guy crumples to the ground, knocked out. He says, "I said, move your cab." Now, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this kind of thing, you can never get over that the rest of your life. You are never going to trust a cop again. I never got over it, and I saw it, you know? Yeah. So, and you suffer, like my friend Elon, you know, Elon, who sings with me sometimes in the altar. His father's a minister. And he told a story about they were coming home from church one day, and somehow the cops pulled them over for whatever. And next thing you know, there's a cop has a gun out on him, and there's a little boy in the back seat. And Elon, he remembers this his whole life. Yeah. The time the cops, and I'm telling you, I know what his dad was. His dad was a minister. His dad was not threatening anybody. His dad was also a very calm, reasoned person. You can't shake those kind of things. I think that doesn't get talked about enough. The white people who really are like, I don't know, I don't get this. Like I see the stats and what's going. They don't know these stories. Yeah. They don't know these stories. They don't see that in their community.
Well, I think that's a big part of the protest is the protest against white skepticism. And, you know, there's all this video evidence now. And I feel like they're protesting until there's an end of white skepticism you know.
Well, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean, also two cops, you know, you got cops that are 21 years old, 22 years old. My kids at 21, 22 couldn't fry an egg. I mean, there's got to be stricter rules to become a cop. You can't be 21 years old and be able to carry a weapon. You're just not mature or old enough. You know, there's got to be an age, a minimum age limit to become a cop. You also, I mean, I see cops that are 300 pounds that are so out of shape. I mean, you know, it's just, and so they are going to abuse you because they're probably being abused all day. Look at, you know what I mean?
And yet we should really should say is that I think we've all seen cops behave tremendously decently, bravely. I've seen cops behave nicer to people than I expected them to, you know, or that I would have felt I would have in that situation. Is by no means, you know, want to bash cops who do, after all, they really do risk their lives, you know. I think 100 or 90 cops were killed last year on duty, shot. So it's a tough thing to unpack. It's a tough thing.
Well, I just learned this week that you basically can't fire. You almost can't fire a bad cop. That dude had 17 transgressions on his record, and the Minneapolis police chief had sued the police department for racial injustice, and then he became the police chief, and they couldn't fire a guy with 17 complaints on him, which is just an insane amount.
That's the unions. And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if the unions were the real problem here, because, I mean, what does this tell us? We have many cities now where this kind of stuff has happened, run by African-American administrations, African-American police chiefs, or extremely liberal people like Bill de Blasio, and yet not one city, to my knowledge, has ever managed to cure this problem, ever once, black, white, whatever it is. So what's the obstacle? Yeah, maybe one of the obstacles is that when you have a cop who has 17 violations, you still can't fire him.
Yeah, but you could put him behind a desk.
Put him behind a desk.
No, I'm saying
put him behind a desk so he can just spread the knowledge of how to get away with murder.
Well, no, I mean, if you can't get him, fire him, you get him off the street at least.
I heard something else, and I hate to be not precise, but I read something else, like also after a certain number of, like if you have these violations, like after 2 years, they will wipe them off your record so no one can ever know about them to them. It's like, it's crazy.
That's stupid.
Could you imagine if comics had unions? You'd have the same 30 comics working your club.
Mike, cut.
You'd have the same 30 comics working your club from 30 years ago.
Where's Ted Alexandro when you need him? Remember?
No, so you know, it wouldn't be surprising me at all if a big part of this story that nobody's really getting, because that's often the case, is that the story is complicated in a way, and it takes a while before people really get to the heart of the matter. It could be union contracts which instantiate, which allow some of this stuff to have inertia and make it very difficult to get rid of it.
Can the so do these protests can these protests get politicians to be like, all right, we're putting the
if
pressure
it's followed up, if it's followed up with like voting and stuff like that, like people who are protesting also need to vote, you know what I mean, like take that opportunity to vote, also go to jury duty. Like as much as I didn't know how important jury duty was until I was like I used to be Chloe Hilliard's roommate, very funny comic, ex-journalist, and I always used to try to blow off journalism, but she made me, blow off jury duty, but she made me see how important it was, because you got people who are from your area being like charged for crimes and being looked at like for like things they've done wrong, and then the people who are on the jury aren't from their neighborhood, so they're hearing these stories and hearing what this behavior and hearing what this person did, and they're just like thinking about themselves and their neighborhood and stuff like that. And you need more people from these hoods and these other urban areas going to jury duty so they could be a part of the difference, so they can be a part of reform, because that's where it also starts.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know
I've never heard that.
I was blowing that shit off so much. I'm like, fuck that, ain't going to jury duty. And then she broke it down like that, and I went, that makes more sense. That makes sense to me.
Or
if somebody from the area, you know what I mean? Would you say, yeah? So
common sense people. I mean, people you see comics. We're different. We know people. We study people. That's what we do on a daily basis. So we could go into a club with white people, black people, mixed people. We know how to read people, and we have common sense, I think.
Yeah.
You know, most people, you know, I talked to this guy next door to me. Next door, you know, he just moved into. I go, oh, they're having protests Saturday in town.
Yeah.
He goes, he said, for what? The price of cantaloupes, you fucking moron. You know what I mean? Some people are so clueless.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy. He's just an old white guy that doesn't, you know.
And then when they do get the information, what ends up happening is they get it from a different outlet. They get it from like an outlet who's already took it and spun it and skewed it. Like, you know what I mean? And
then my wife is going, let's go to the protest. Hey, it's not a music festival. You know what I mean? Relax. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not, we're not going down there to get, you know, fucking snow cones.
Yeah. But I mean, they do got good falafels, depending on where you go.
Not in Jersey, but my wife is extremely liberal, you know, I mean, from Canada.
That's like Canadian shit.
Yeah. And so are we, though, you know. Anytime I post something liberal, they go, oh, look at your wife is making you do that. No, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
It's common sense. The president's a fucking moron. The rich people are getting super rich. They're getting bailouts, and we're sitting here not knowing when I'm going back to fucking work. So I'm on edge.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you something, Rich. It's very interesting what you said. Unless somebody else wanted to say something, did I cut anybody off?
No, you're good.
I wrote somebody today that most of my entire life, I was always following politics, and it was always basically entertainment for me. I mean, I cared about it. You know, you can care about your sports team, whatever it is, and I and I believed what I thought was right and wrong, but I never felt that whoever won the election was going to really, really affect me in any way. They'll raise the taxes, lower the taxes, this, whatever, I'll be fine. And all of a sudden here, both with this pandemic and with this looting, I realized that all my chips were on the table now. And I have leaders here who are playing these hands for me. And both with the pandemic and with this looting, I realized, if they don't fucking handle this right, I could lose everything, and I will not be able to recover. Yeah. And you just really realize that at times like this, you really do need to have competent leadership. And like, look at the mistakes that Trump made, the mistakes that Cuomo made with everyone who died in the nursing homes and not shutting down the state in time, and de Blasio, and now, in my opinion, the way they were too slow about protecting lives and property. I mean, it should have no impact on the peaceful demonstrations going forward for them to absolutely be out in force to protect lives and property from looting. One does not have to do with the other, if you believe, and I do believe that overwhelmingly the protesters are peaceful, but yet they didn't protect lives and property. And I mean, I have a building there. We all put Comedy Cellar, and they could have burned it down, and there's no recovering from that. And a lot of people I know who are like, who've been like, kind of like, a little ambivalent about the looting, whatever it is. And I say to them, really, what if they burn down the Comedy Cellar? And what I noticed is that the only people I've heard who've been like ambivalent about the looting and stuff have been people who really have no threat. They're not worried about their house burning down. They're not, their dad doesn't have a store in a neighborhood that's likely to get burned down. So, and it's a real failure of empathy. This looting and stuff should be an outrage to even the most dedicated person of this cause against police brutality. One has nothing to do with the other. It has nothing to do with the other. And I'm venting now, but really, like, it's the first time in my life I really felt like if one of these leaders fucks it up, I'm done. Well, and I'm almost 60 years old, and I'm not recovering.
Well, that's a good point. Like, we all thought everybody said the president's just a figurehead. The president's just a figurehead. And then when real things are at stake, all of our lives are being directly affected by the president. My question is, if he had come out and been less racial, less of an idiot, and even had said something like, which he would have never said, but even if he had said, this is horrible, and I just want to say Black Lives Matter, do you think the looting would have slowed down a little?
No, the looting, first of all, people have been.
I think it would have been on the opposite side. I think his supporters would have been outraged and felt like maybe they're like he's being put up, like he's being set up, and somebody put him up to it. But I think it would have had an effect. I think I would say I would say it would have to have some sort of effect. Yeah. If the president says Black Lives Matter, I stand with the Black community during a time like this, and I think that the cops who commit crimes like these should face charges. I think that some sort of action will follow. But because he's not doing it and he's not doing anything like that, you're getting this shit.
Yeah,
so
I think there would have been less looting for sure.
My feeling is that I don't know how much less looting there would have been, because I feel
they probably would have left Target alone.
I saw a guy.
Listen, because I feel like a large percentage of the people who do that sort of thing, or especially the violence, forget about the looting, but the actual, like, the violence,
that's what they showed up for. They came there for that.
However, no matter what effect it would have had, it would have been the right thing to do, and it certainly could not have hurt. That is for sure. It certainly could not have hurt. He should have done that.
But the thing is with the
go ahead. No,
I'm saying the looting, like, even the protesters against the looting, you know what I mean? The looting aren't like, I feel like it's separate. The people who are burning and destroying property are separate. Like, they're grouped in and they're a part of this thing. They're part of the protest, but the actual people who are protesting don't want to see their neighborhoods destroyed.
Yeah.
It's just people taking advantage of the opportunities. You know what I mean? Like I've been, the Phillies won World Series while I still lived there. I went to the thing, but there were some people flipping over cars, and there were some people like, "Yo, we just want to celebrate. Why the fuck are you doing that?"
Yeah, we've seen looting. We've seen looting at sports championships. So obviously there was
it's human behavior. There's those people who are going to do it regardless of the situation.
There are some people out there just waiting for an opportunity.
Yep.
I saw a guy running out of Target with a mannequin.
Maybe he wanted to start his own clothing line.
Listen to me. I know this pandemic, you can get lonely, but he ran out with a mannequin. He's going, I'm leaving this store with fucking something. And he left with a mannequin.
He got to get the thick ones. You got to go to like the plus size side and get the thick mannequins.
I just think too, with everybody cooped up, the boiling point. I was young, but I remember in my town during the '67 riots, because they were in Plainfield, Newark, Chicago. But Plainfield, my town, was Black Panthers, everybody. And the town was a wreck, burnt down, and all the craziness. And I remember it because it came to a boiling point in the 60s where by 67, Black people said, fuck this. And now, not only the boiling point is Black people saying, fuck all this bullshit. People in general are going, I am so sick of living like this. Of being, it's just you see the Donald Trumps and the 1%. And I'm a capitalistic person. I believe in capitalism, but you know what? You got to somehow spread the wealth. When these motherfucking during the COVID virus, all these preachers and multimillionaires, they're not making donations. How much? When's enough for certain people? And nobody wants to spread. I don't want a handout. I work for everything, but do you know what I'm saying? No, when you get to that level, you don't give a fuck what's going on in Philly burning or Minnesota. You're at another level that it can't even affect.
And you're saying they should help. They should be helping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
These are people
Absolutely.
that should be helping. Someone like, Gates and Zuckerberg, all of them, they all, and I'm not saying maybe they are, but people need to help other people. That's all,
Well, ain't Gates still trying to like he's fighting polio or some shit? Another
malaria,
country?
Right?
Malaria.
Gates has done a lot of good for the world. Gates probably.
I know, but what's he doing now? He's like the last documentary I seen, he was like trying to like come up with a cure for like polio or some shit.
Spent like years delivering clean water in Africa. I think he saved. I think he's leading most of his wealth to various.
Yeah, I'm not saying him in general, and I'm just saying, what I'm
Bezos.
saying.
It's Bezos we need to take down.
Oh, that guy has too much power.
I mean, I will say this though: as much power as he had, those workers stayed working during this whole pandemic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Amazon was one of the companies that were employing people. Yes, he's an asshole for monopolizing this whole shit, not really spreading the wealth, but there were people who needed jobs, and he supplied that jobs. Those people who could do, like, they became delivery people. They would go pick up the packages, deliver groceries and stuff. So,
also, I know I get very jealous that my wife is getting so many more packages than me.
Yeah.
Every day the doorbell rings and she ordered something new. I'm going, hey, listen, I got to catch up. Because
either she's making more money or she has a spending habit. She has a problem.
We're about out of time. That went really quickly. I want to say again that I am very proud to be part of this community here that we have. I think that I don't know of any other community that has had such open, frank conversations, including disagreements, by people of goodwill who loved each other afterwards, as the Comedy Cellar community has had. Last night, I checked in, I didn't do the show last night. He had Sherrod and Mike Yard. There's mostly a bunch of black guys. And I forget who, somebody white was on. But anyway, and it was also a great conversation. And I was very proud that, I was represented by that side, by all of it. I'm just very proud of the whole thing. Yeah. And I think there's a big lesson in that for America. I know that sounds corny, but I really believe that. I think that this is what we do is very unusual. People are not able to talk about things, especially black and white and stuff like that.
Yeah, people
we're open-minded.
people imagine New York is this chaotic epicenter, but I've never seen out and about. I've never seen anyone in New York be nicer than they've been the last 2 months. Everybody's just super friendly, waving. It's like living it's a little bit like living in like it was like to live in North Carolina, where people want to chat you up, but from 10 feet away.
I haven't checked in on Nick DiPaolo. I've been afraid. What, have you anybody been listening to Nick DiPaolo?
I mean, he's probably on tour now. This is the best time for him to get out there.
I read some tweets. He does not hold back. He doesn't care. I mean, what he believes in is what he believes in.
What is he saying right now?
I can't. Let's just say
I can't read his tweets.
I don't. I read one. I go, oh my God. What I did like is, all the people going after him, how he went back at him on Twitter, like, well, don't follow me. Well, what the fuck are you following me for? You know what I mean? Like, I'll get that shit. I'll get people that go, oh, you're an asshole. I go, well, you're a bigger one. You follow me. So, I mean, these guys, I read Facebook, and there's a lot of right-wing comics on Facebook that I know. I mean, really right-wing. And I don't want to start arguing with them because I'm not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
I'm not. They're so, just like complete left-wing people, you're not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
I don't know. Most comics, I think, are moderate people, are down the road, moderate, middle of the road people.
Yeah, because we got to perform for both sides of the crowd.
Yeah.
But also, you can't be too strong. I feel like as a comic, you can't have that. You can't be too strong, opinionated on just like one thing and not like your funny comes from doubting that shit, being like, okay, this is funny, but what if it's this or what if it's that? So you have to be open-minded and you have to be able to see both sides of the coin, or you're just not going to be funny. So it's a tool to be down the middle of the road and not be like too. Yeah. So
I think comics are open-minded. They're skeptical.
Yeah.
They are
in everything.
They are used to people saying things that are kind of offensive, so they don't get all bent out of shape if somebody says something. They're probably smarter on average than most people, I would guess. There's got to be some correlation between humor and intelligence, right? So yeah, for all those reasons, I would say that. And they live a more diverse life, actually.
Yeah.
One of the things I always make fun of, like a lot of woke people, is that like woke white people, is that they never spent 5 minutes with a black person. They literally have, like, it was like stunning. Like I'm joking, like I won't even say who it is. I went to this woke white person's wedding. My wife was the only person of color there. Then I went to this Democratic fundraiser at Gotham one night by this left winger, and again, my wife was the only person of color there. I'm like, it's like you guys, and from that comes such a lack of self-assurance in these white people, that they are often more out there and crazy than black people are about this stuff. Like, did you see that clip of all the white people bowing and apologizing for their whiteness? Did you see that viral video?
No, I didn't see that. I need to see it.
Wait, talk about it. We got to show this before we go up, because
that is hilarious. I mean, it's overboard, but it's very funny.
Hey, Monroe, when I go to this protest, how can I let the people know that I did Def Jam? How do I
I mean,
should I wear my Fat Farm sweatshirt?
Yeah, I think you should wear your Fat Farm sweatshirt, but you also should just blast the set on like a beat. Yeah, just have a speaker out there like, this is my set. I'm one of you.
Wait, that's not the right one. Hold on. Is this it?
And you are the God of reconciliation. Their repentance for God, for holy unforgiveness.
No, keep talking.
Okay.
Rich, you go to the protest, they're gonna think you're an undercover cop.
Yeah, because you got undercover cop like physique.
No, but I got my hometown is what do you call it? Is urban. Where I'm from is Plainfield, New Jersey.
I know, but if I seen you walking down the street with that on and your Jordans, I go, oh, this is a setup.
No,
this is detective. You're
detective boss.
You're a high rank detective. You're detective boss. You're there like showing the rookies the beat.
How can I not look like a detective?
I don't know. At this point, you just got to live with it.
Detective. I was
I think you'd have to grow out long hair or something.
Yeah, Detective Voss down here.
Oh shit! Long hair would make me look more undercover.
It looks like you got a haircut. Have you been getting a haircut over there?
Yeah.
I combed it down. My wife I cut the sides and the back. My wife cut the back, and I try to cut it myself, but I put a big bald spot back here, and it's growing back, and I just brush it down.
Damn.
I'm not.
Aren't you afraid of it's growing unevenly?
No.
That if you got a bald spot, you got a bald spot now, and that's gonna.
I don't care. Really? The world's in flames, and I'm worried about my fucking bald spot.
I mean, they had there were like secret, like underground, like things going on where like barbers will come to people's houses, or they'll say like the shop is closed or something like that, and then people would like still sneak in.
Oh yeah.
People still getting a haircut. I didn't get it either. Like, I'm like, what's so important that like,
yeah,
you don't need a haircut. It's a luxury. No. It's not a thing you need.
Maybe this is it. I don't know. Sorry. I mean,
I want to see some white people bowing and apologizing for their.
Yeah, I gotta see this. Look at this. Oh,
think of this.
Hear it?
Hear the sound?
In honor of his legacy, we're not rioting, God. We're not shaming anybody, God. We're just humbling ourselves before you.
Yes, Lord.
You brought the thunder and rain today, God, because Satan takes the L today. Father, in Jesus' name, you get the victory. Father, we ask for forgiveness from our black brothers and sisters for years and years of racism, of systematic racism.
That goes on.
Satan takes an L today.
Look at that. Yeah.
Not only do we receive their repentance, but God, we repent as the black community for holding unforgiveness.
I don't think this is the one I saw, but if you see these things, like these people, these white, these apologizing for being white, and it's
yeah,
like,
I like it though, because they just
no,
don't fuck up Buffalo Wild Wings. They like these people definitely look like they hang out at Buffalo Wild Wings.
I think they should play.
We don't want to war in the parking lot.
I wish the black side had been like, thank you, but we don't quite accept your apology.
Yeah. Well, I think they should have played four squares.
Yeah.
No, and this is my feeling. I don't know if you have this feeling, and I really truly have had this pretty much my whole life. And I'm not saying this because what's going on, but I've never felt as white as I do feel Jewish. Like if people are trashing white people, I really don't give a fuck. If they're
but that's the benefit of being like, I feel like that's the Jew privilege that you can like step back and be like, oh, whoa, I ain't a part of that shit.
Yes, I'm not though. I'm not.
I know, which is funny to me. I like it. So. But when people say white people, the people who should be defended are the ones who do shit, or the ones who think negatively. Like if somebody makes general statements about black people, I'm not going to get angry because I know I don't fit in that category. I don't do those things. It's not going to strike a chord with me because I'm like, you don't know me and I know about my behavior. So I'm not going to fucking get offended. And it's the same with y'all. Like, you know, you're Jewish. The person screaming at you may not know you're Jewish.
It's the Paulo.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Like I like Nick. It's so funny. Like Nick is like when I see Nick, it's like, hey, what's up? But then Twitter Nick.
Rich, if some dangerous looters came at you late at night for revenge, would you just say I'm Jewish as they came at you?
He gonna pull out the iced out Star of David he got around his neck.
I'm gonna tell him I did the Apollo, BEP, Def Jam, Martin Lawrence, and Terminal D and the Peppermint.
I gotta go. I was doing that. I got something I had to deal with. Unless I'm gonna sign up. You guys keep talking if you want. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up.
I'm fine with wrap it up. Yeah.
All right. Good seeing you, Monroe.
It was good seeing you too, man. Good seeing you, Joe. Good seeing you, Noam.
Good to see you guys.
See you.
Yeah.
All right, be safe. Take it easy.